Hey guys, my name is Brad with Panone's Lawn Pros, and I'm here today to talk about how to water your new sod. When we finish a sod install for someone, the first thing they ask is, well, how much should I water my sod? And that's a tough question because there's not a correct answer, one size fits all. It's different for every house. So for example, sprinkler systems put out a lot more water than just a hose. So I have customers who maybe have new, updated, nice sprinkler systems with nice sprinkler heads. And then I have customers who have, older houses, maybe not great water pressure with thin diameter hoses. Those two can really dramatically change. With a sprinkler system and more relevant up-to-date sprinkler heads, you might water 15, 18, 20 minutes a zone. With houses that have, or maybe older, have poor water pressure and smaller hose diameters, they might be watering 45, 50 minutes a zone. So it's important that you understand there's no right answer for every single house. So let's talk about exactly how to figure that out. The first thing you have to think about is how much sunlight is this area getting? The information in this video is specifically pertinent to the North Georgia area and the sod that we have here, which is mainly Bermudas and Zoysias. So we're standing right now in a backyard here in Cumming, Georgia, that we installed Zoysia on last week. This is actually a perfect case for this video to explain, but this house, although you can't see it right now due to the shade, has about half shade and half sunlight. So right around here is where the shade is, and if you check these pieces of sod, they're nice and a little bit wet. As you go back out here to the sunnier part of the yard, which I'll show you in just a second, it's gonna be a lot drier. So keep in mind, I'm telling you this, shaded areas need less water, obviously, and sunny areas need more water. I actually went by a house last week, it was just in full sun, and the guy was watering once a day. I said, hey, we got to increase this. It's just not enough. So the amount you water is going to be based on two things: how sunny it is and the air temperature. My general rule of thumb is anywhere 85 degrees and below, you can probably get away with a nice once a day watering. Now these are general instructions. You have to specifically tune this in for your yard. So anywhere 85 degrees and below, you can usually get away with once a day watering. Anywhere 85 degrees or above, we're going to be doing twice a day watering. So we always recommend watering first thing in the morning around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. That way it gives water time to soak in the dirt, soak in the grass before the sun comes up and burns all that water off of your yard. So we want to go first thing in the morning, and if you have to add a second watering, you're going to do so around 12, 1 o'clock. The reason we do it 12, 1 o'clock is you would never want your sod to go to bed wet. So if you ever walk out at night and check a couple pieces of your sod and it's still wet, you've watered too much, you need to lessen it. So the goal is always to soak it in the morning and have it dry out by the evening time. Now, the most important part of this whole discussion is what's called a sod audit. That's what I call it. So after your sprinklers, we leave your house, we just left, we install your fresh sod, you're gonna run your sprinklers. As soon as your sprinklers have run, you need to do what's called a sod audit. A sod audit is where you're going to go around to 3 or 4 different places in your yard and you're going to pick up a corner of sod and see how wet it is. So if you've watered your yard for 25 minutes, you're going to walk out and check some corners and pieces. It should be soaking wet. If it's soaking wet, you did a great job. If just the piece of sod is wet but not the ground underneath, you need to add more water. So let me show you what a sod audit is. Now keep in mind the sun's popped back out here in this video now. This area that's in the shade needs a little bit less water. This area that's in the sunlight is gonna need more water. So when we leave your house, you're just ready to start watering your yard for the first time, you run your sprinkler system. As soon as that's over with, you're gonna walk outside and check to see how you did. Because having new sod's like having a new baby. You gotta take good care of it, right? So let's check this out. A sod audit is where you're gonna walk around to 3 or 4 corners in your yard and you're gonna pick up a corner of sod. You're gonna ask yourself, is this piece of sod wet? Is the dirt wet? In this instance, this dirt is pretty wet and the piece of sod's wet. So I'm happy with that. The customer's doing a good job. Now, as we walk over here just a bit, if you notice in this part of the yard's actually a little bit yellower than it is over here. It's because they're watering the same amount of time for the entire backyard, which is a common mistake. Like they're gonna need to add more water over here in the sunnier section. So check a couple corners of sod. So we checked one here. So maybe we come out here and we check one here. See, this is getting a little bit drier. This needs more water. And then the last thing, check 1 or 2 more corners. So for example, over here, this grass looks dry. So yep, this is a little dry. So this needs more water. So a sod audit is the only surefire way to know, am I watering enough? Am I not watering enough? You have to do this for the first couple weeks, a couple times a week, maybe once a day or so, until you get in a rhythm and really figure out. A week or so and you'll feel comfortable with what you're doing and what's going on. You'll know what to do. But a sod audit is the only way to know exactly how much water to be putting on your yard. You have to go out the first couple days, a couple times a day, check and see, is it wet, is it dry, add water, take away water. The most important thing is just use common sense. You know what to do. If it turns yellow, you probably need to add more water, right? But do a sod audit, keep the grass really nice and wet. Do not have it wet when the sun goes down. If you have any questions, give me a call. Thanks.